Good day, class. Welcome to Social Studies class. We are still on our topic harmful traditional practices. And just like I discussed between class, the meaning of harmful traditional practices. I told you that there are customs, beliefs, and traditions and way of life which are capable of causing death, fear, stigma, and disease, and other psychological effects to women and children, female children. And I also told you that there are also uh, practices that cause physical pain or damage to mostly women and female children. And I also told you the types of harmful traditional practices that we have. I told you we're having the female circumcision, also known as the female genital mutilation. And I also told you that we're having the wife inheritance, we have the breast ironing, we have use of children for begging. And I also told you that we're having the uh, forced or early marriage, and so on and so forth. Now, today we are going to talk about the consequences or effects of harmful traditional practices. Now, these effects, these based on the practice of harmful traditional practices, they are having some effects, some negative effects in the life of the victim. So, we are going to talk about the inability of a woman to conceive due to disease. Now, a victim of harmful traditional practices due to the uh, pain or some damages that have happened to them during those practices, they will be unable or they might be unable to conceive. For example, a female child who went through circumcision, the effects at the end of the day might lead to her being unable to conceive and have children. So that is one of the effects, the inability of a woman or a female child to conceive due to the diseases. Then we also have another one. It leaves bad memories in the life of the victims. Now, a victim of harmful traditional practices will find it very difficult to adapt to a normal way of life, and because of the experience she had gone through during that process of that practices, so that memory will remain in her and it will make her feel dejected, and it will cause emotional pain to her anytime she remembers what had been done to her. Then we also have another one. We have severe pain during sexual intercourse. Severe pain during sexual intercourse. Now, a victim, and this is mostly done to the women, the female children rather. During sexual intercourse, they will feel pain because of what had happened to them during the circumcision or the genital mutilation. So they will experience a lot of pain during sexual intercourse. Then we also have another one. We have loss of self-esteem, sadness, and depression. Such victim will have a low self-esteem. You'll be sad, depressed, uh, due to what he or she had gone through. So that is another consequences of effects. Loss of self-esteem, depression, and sadness. Then we also have another one. We have risk of death due to pregnancy-related cause in the case of early marriage. Now, a victim of harmful traditional practices that was forced to early marriage, there's no way a female child will be forced to early marriage and the husband will not want to have sexual intercourse with her because he believe that after all I've married you. Now, a child who has not yet matured enough, maybe the reproductive organ has not yet matured, and at the long run she became pregnant, so there will be a risk of death maybe during the course of delivery or some other medical effects, negative effects during process of delivering. So there's risk of death due to pregnancy related cause in the case of early marriage. Then we also have another one. We have psychological trauma for the victim. Now, the such victim will uh, face psychological trauma. The trauma, the experience, the uh, mental ability will be affected psychologically because of what she had gone through, he or she had gone through in that process of harmful practices. Then we also have another one. We have contracting of disease. Contracting of disease. Now, a victim of harmful practices they are likely to contract disease or different kind of infections during the process of these practices. A situation whereby during the circumcision, maybe the object that was used for that circumcision is not clean enough, maybe it's not a good object, maybe it's not treated well, then there are risks that it is possible that during that course of circumcision they might contract disease and other diseases such as HIV, such as syphilis. Then we also have another one, we have childbirth problem. Childbirth problem. Now a victim of child marriage or early child or forced marriage can experience childbirth problem as a result of non-maturation of reproductive system. Now I said this earlier, that a victim of child marriage or a female child who was forced into marriage will experience childbirth problem due to the fact that the reproductive system is not matured enough. So she is likely to face childbirth problem. And we have another one, we have deprivation of schooling. Deprivation of schooling. Now a victim of harmful practices, harmful traditional practices, is being deprived of school due to the fact that he or she is used for begging or child labor, or they are being engaged in hard labor in farms. So they are being deprived from going to school. They won't have that privilege, the opportunity to go to school and learn like their other mates. So that is another effect or consequences of harmful traditional practices. We have another, we have disability and death. Disability and death. Now some harmful practices victims can result in physical disability and even death. Maybe during the process of those practices, maybe a child who was used for begging along the line, maybe during the in the street when they were going out for begging of alms, and the hit and run car just hit such victim and it leads to death. So there are so many ways that death can occur in harmful traditional practices. So disability and death, it's also one of the effects or consequences of harmful traditional practices. Then we have the prevention of harmful traditional practices. Now these are ways of preventing it. These are ways of curbing it. These are ways of stopping harmful traditional practices in the society. Now the first one is public enlightenment. Public enlightenment, and this includes orientation and education of citizens on the negative effects of harmful traditional practices, such as enlightenment. These enlightenments can be carried out by government agencies, mass medias, houses and schools. Now this is talking about creating awareness, creating of awareness. So the government has a part to play in this. Awareness should be created, should be made known to people through mass media, in schools, even in churches. Even in churches, they should tell people about the effects, the negative effects and consequences of harmful traditional practices. And once people knows about the effects, then they would know that it is not something they should engage. We also have legislation. Now the government should put in places necessary legislation to combat these harmful traditional practices. The government has a part to play in this. They should ensure that those people who fall victim of harmful traditional practices, those people that engage in it rather, should be punished severely. The government should put a system in place, some policies in place, that anybody who is practicing these harmful traditional practices should be punished severely. That person should not go unpunished. Then we also have another one, we have punishments. This includes sanctions and penalties backed by necessary laws on perpetrators of harmful traditional practices. And this will go a long way to curb and prevent this ill act in society. So anybody caught doing these practices should be punished. Then there should be a law, a certain law by the government, that perpetrators of this evil act should be punished severely and they won't go unpunished. Then we also have campaigns and rallies. Now non-governmental organizations, the NGOs like the Boy Scouts and others, should make campaigns and rallies about harmful traditional practices. So human rights crusaders or the human rights fighters as well should mount on campaigns against harmful traditional practices in Nigeria. They should make campaigns, they should make rallies, they should create awareness about the effects, about this ill and its consequences in the society. Then we also have free and compulsory education. Free and compulsory education. Now this has to do with the government putting in place free education, because not everybody has that privilege to send their children to school. So government should ensure that all uh, children who are not able to go to school should government should ensure that they are taken to school. And if this is done, then it will reduce the number of children that are out there who don't have that privilege of going to school. Then this will also help to reduce child arms begging, child labour and forced or early marriage. Now in conclusion, now dwelling on past harmful traditional practices only allows those ugly actions to keep hurting us and limiting us. Now this is talking about us not engaging in these harmful practices, because they are the outcome and the consequences of these harmful practices is not good to the victims. They cause damage, they cause trauma, they cause psychological trauma, it leads to death and at times physical trauma to the victims.